G'day, Peter here. Um, this is my YouTube channel's fairly new, right? And so I've got about I think 100 videos or something up there at the moment on my Pacific Trading Post YouTube channel. And so this is the first video that I've actually had, flagged with YouTube for breaching its policies. They said in the email that I'd breached a policy to do with World Health Organization advice to do with the coronavirus, and that or that I was going against the efficacy of the local health authorities. Now, neither of those things happen in the video, so I'm going to actually just play this video, and it's in the I'm submitting the appeal, and you can't watch the video anymore. They've pulled it down, so I'm going to record this screen and record the video, and you can make up your own mind, because I'll put it back up again with this like this. So we'll see. Anyway, let's play the video and we'll talk about it. And you tell me whether you think it should be pulled down or not. G'day. I'm just here in a coffee shop in Hozong, and where it's April 2nd. No, not April, May 2nd, and having a cup of coffee. So Vietnam makes great coffee. But why is there? But I wanted to talk about the coronavirus. Why is there a total? Hang on. There we go. I've only got 10% battery in my phone, so I might have to make this quick. Anyway, why is there a total media blackout in all Western democracies about the success of communist countries in fighting the coronavirus? All Western media talks about Korea, talks about Japan, talks about Singapore, and how successful Korea is, or how successful South Korea is, or Singapore is for fighting the coronavirus. But why aren't they talking about Vietnam? Or even China, for that matter. Vietnam has got only 268 cases of coronavirus. It's May now, and 268 cases of coronavirus in all these months. They quarantined lots of people. They shut down businesses, and they responded to the virus very, very well. But they got 268 cases. America has shut down all these businesses, quarantined all these people too, and done all this stuff. But they've got 1 million cases. Why isn't the media talking about Vietnam? I never see it on any media. I watch CNN, I watch BBC. Yeah, so so clearly I'm saying, I paused that at a good face, didn't I? Look at that. Anyway, only a mother would love that face. But clearly, I'm saying, Vietnam's very successful at containing the coronavirus, and at this stage, that was May. There'd been no deaths, and America had like 1 million cases already, and Vietnam only had 200. So they'd contained community spread, and they were doing really well. Now, just to give you an update. Right now, it's December 17, thereabouts. I think, yeah, somewhere there. Anyway, and and America's got, I think from memory, about 18 million cases of coronavirus, with 300,000 deaths. Right. So and Vietnam currently, I don't know the actual official numbers right now, but it still hasn't had an outbreak where there's I would imagine the numbers here are still less than 1,000, because since May nothing much has happened in the country still. I think there's 3 deaths in total or something like that, but it's not very many. Anyway, let's keep playing this. I watched the Australian ABC. Not one article saying, oh hey, wonder what Vietnam did that was different. And I was here. I came into Vietnam on the 20th of January, and so I've been here the whole time. And I can tell you, from the 22nd of January, Vietnam was handing out, or on the loud hailer, because they've got a PA system that goes around all their cities, and they were telling everybody to be careful of people that had come from China. If they're sick, let the authorities know, because there's a viral infection getting around. And then within a few days after that, they were handing out free masks. They had signs up on all of the government buildings for coronavirus. So this is me saying, in late January, Vietnam was handing out free masks, encouraging everybody to put masks on, which I'm supporting in this video, because I'm saying, why aren't people asking the question, what should we learn from Vietnam? So my video is explicitly saying, wear masks. America didn't wear masks. They didn't hand out free masks to start with, and they didn't say, oh, hey, be careful of anybody that's come in from overseas and they should quarantine. But Vietnam was doing that right from late January. In fact, in my hotel, I was staying in a hotel at the time, and they come down. When I came downstairs, they were saying to me, "Where did you come from? Did you come through China when you came to Vietnam?" Because I'd just flown in a few days before. And if I'd come from China, they actually wanted me to leave the hotel. They didn't want me staying there. They wanted me to go and report to the government agencies for quarantining. And that's a totally different attitude back in January to what any other country in the world was taking. In fact, like my wedding was in March, and I had family fly from Australia to Vietnam for the wedding, right? Because they'd already locked down all the place and stopped community spread and really taken lots of efforts. But anyway, as you can see, like my video, as we go through, as they identified it as coronavirus, is specifically and then saying about good Vietnam February, early February, they shut all the movie cinemas, shut all the karaoke down, shut down all the big places. We had our wedding on the 1st of March, and there was 350 people, and instead of having a wedding that lasted like 6 hours, we had a wedding that lasted an hour and a half, 2 hours, because we were worried that the police might turn up and tell everybody to go home in the middle of the ceremony. But a couple of days after the 1st of March, they closed down all weddings, all funerals, all gatherings over 20 people or something like that. I'm not sure what the number was. But why, they've had a really good success here fighting the coronavirus. And why isn't it even mentioned? It's not even talked about at all. Like 268 cases, not one death in Vietnam. Now, I think they quarantined 30,000 people that were suspected at the time. There you go. I paused it on another great face. But at the time, South Korea had an outbreak. All right. And the media was all praising how well South Korea had responded to it, and how they only had, how many ever thousands of cases, right? But Vietnam only had 200. And I think that Vietnam had about 170,000 people in quarantine. So they really quarantined anybody that had a temperature, or that had been in from overseas or anything. So this is my point. My point is that Vietnam handled the virus really well. They followed the World Health Organization recommendations. They stopped community spread. They recommended masks. Everybody was out in public at the time. So this is later. This is April, early April that I made the video. I thought it was May, but it was actually April. And so why did this get banned? See whether I suspected as being sick, right? So like they really took it seriously. And if we're out eating in a restaurant one time and the government bus comes around with all the medical staff in white suits and everything, and they took temperatures of all of the staff at serving at the restaurant, not the patrons, but the staff. And I guess it's If you had a temperature then, you'd probably get dragged away and quarantined for 2 weeks,
So even
which
though there was no
might not be a favourable outcome for the individual, but for the country,
things
why
like that
has Vietnam only got 268 cases of coronavirus? Like, why isn't this question even being asked? In all of the world, I don't know any other country that's survived the coronavirus better than this. So either the government here is faking the numbers and there's actually a massive outbreak here with lots of people dying, and the government's hiding it, or it's just true. And if it's true, then why isn't the media talking about it and saying, hey, why don't we take some lessons from Vietnam? Why didn't we respond the same as Vietnam responded? Because they responded early, and you know, even early March.
And I might point out also, Vietnam responded early with the virus, but also in social media, they actually just passed a law back in like February that said anybody who says anything against the virus in Vietnam, like as in that they say the virus is fake, or they say that hey, I'm not going to wear masks or whatever because I don't believe that viruses spread like that. And back in May, April, America was still having a debate as to whether you should wear masks. I mean, the president was, making a big show of the fact that he didn't wear a mask during the debate, and then a few days later he got the virus. During the presidential debates, which were months and months after this. So this video was a precursor to those things, and I was saying, hey, if Americans are watching this, Vietnam did really, really well. They contained the virus, and these are the steps they took. So why is YouTube pulling down this video? It's crazy.
The West could have looked at Vietnam and said, hey, they haven't had an outbreak. They're right next to China. They've had like Wuhan's just across the border from Hanoi. Like it's so close, and there's thousands of tons of trade that happens between Hanoi and China on a rail network that goes up there, and that. So people can travel to and from across that border really easy, and often do. And the only infections they've had here have been people coming from China back on business or something. They had a bunch of foreign tourists come in. They shut down their borders, so they stopped anybody coming into the country, because at one stage, out of the 268, I think 150 or more of those are actually foreigners that come in with the virus, and so they shut down their borders. But they treated all of those people for free, right? And not one of them died. So look it up. I mean, why was Vietnam so successful in fighting the coronavirus? Now, so far, and they've opened up now. Like, so the karaoke's not open. Like, we're 2nd of May. Karaoke's not open. Movies aren't open. But you can go to a coffee shop and you can go out and eat now. They've got lots of new implementations, like at the shopping centres. Everybody's got face shields on as well as masks. But what's the big deal?
So 2nd of May, the Vietnamese government had told everybody how important it is to stop the virus, and private corporations were spending money to make sure that they complied with the recommendations, and even the local supermarkets got the plastic screen and everything. Vietnam was doing that like months and months and months before America even said about doing it, or that. Like, I remember at the time when I made this, America was very much still saying, hey, we don't really need to wear masks because it doesn't really affect the spread of the virus. And that's why I made the video. I made the video because I was saying, hey, have a look at Vietnam. I really object to a private corporation like YouTube pulling down this video just because they've got an algorithm. And I'll tell you why they flagged it with their algorithm. I put in one 3-second clip, you'll see in a minute, right, of President Trump saying that there's something stupid about the virus. And my whole 15 minutes is me talking about how stupid that action was, and so they've pulled it down.
I feel that Western democracies just can't go, oh, hey, actually, a communist country handled this virus a lot better than we did. I don't understand it. I don't know why they can't learn some lessons from it. And I think the truth is that all Western democracies, because of the profit motive of capitalist societies, they really needed the virus to take off to generate economic improvement.
And look, that it might sound like a conspiracy theory. There you go. There's another great face. But it might sound like a conspiracy theory that I'm saying, oh, hey, Western democracies let the virus get away, so then the pharmaceutical companies could make a fortune out of selling anti-vaccines, or vaccines rather, not anti-vaccines. But at the same time, why did communist Vietnam handle it so well? So if you think it's a conspiracy, why did a communist country handle it so well? And I really think it's to do with the profit motive. The thing is that in Vietnam, even private companies don't get bailed out. So when the government said, hey, there's a killer virus, right, and you need to close your karaoke bar, everybody that owned a karaoke bar also has friends and family that would be affected by this virus, where they have to go to the hospital and get medical treatment or something. And so they went, hey, we closed the karaoke bar, we stopped the spread, we save our families. Like, it was a no-brainer. There was nobody even complaining about it. Like, there's nobody here saying, oh, like, even privately, there was nobody saying, oh, it's terrible that we have to close down. Like, people were all like, hey, we have to close down to stop the spread, and that was back in May 2nd when I made this video. So the couple of months before that, Vietnam already had it under control.
Improvement later on, right? There's a whole bunch of people making a lot of money out of this virus in the West, and I mean, you might want to ask how much of Trump's portfolio is invested in healthcare shares, to find out whether, when he said in I think it was late March, he said, oh, look, this is just a flu and we're handling it really well. We've only got 30 cases and we'll get over this.
But very well under control. We have very little problem in this country at this moment.
Well,
see, I'll bet you
it's
that's
only
why
2
they
months.
flagged it for that one clip like there. But I obviously am not talking about the fact that this virus is under control in America or anything like that. The video is totally against that, and I'm recording this now because they didn't even give me the option to download this video again. So I didn't actually have it backed up on my servers or that privately. I just upload it and then I delete it because they're big files and I've only got a notebook computer. So yeah.
Months later, and they've got 1 million cases and nearly 70,000 deaths, 68,000 deaths, I think. Looking at it this morning, so
since 68,000 it's gone to 300,000.
How could the US have so many deaths when it's so far away from Vietnam, and
it's got such good
and
education
contain the
systems,
virus so poorly, even with all of this economic carnage that they've thrust on their business community? And I mean, in Vietnam, there's no stimulus package. Government's not saying, oh, because we shut down your karaoke bar, we're going to pay all your bills for the next 10 years, or until business comes back, or hibernate, or some crap like that. The government in Vietnam, I think they said they would give 10% off the power bill for businesses, affected by the coronavirus. So 10% off your power bill probably doesn't equate to much when your movie cinema's been closed down for 3 months or something. So it's certainly affected businesses here. But I think one of the big differences is that normal households aren't affected very much, because the taxation here is about 5%, and it doesn't need to be much higher than that for individuals, because they don't have free healthcare. It's user pays. They don't have the dole. They don't have free money for anybody that wants to bludge, right? But they do look after people, that are in bad situations. So all of the people that were quarantined by the government had the local officials come around and ask everybody for donations, and everybody wrote down their name and how much they donated. And so it's no secret to anybody in the community whether you donated or you didn't. And also, next time you want some work done by the government, if you didn't help the government when they needed some help, well then you probably aren't going to get your local building approvals through. Or
But see, I'm saying this from my perspective as a Westerner. Like, the government taxes us in the West, and they have really high tax rates, like up to 50 cents in the dollar or 56 cents in the dollar in Australia, plus GST, so it's actually 66 cents on private individuals. And so I thought it was really odd for the government to say, hey, look, actually there's a natural disaster, we really need some money, right, and send the local guy around to collect donations towards that. And but I actually support it, and I think, hey, that's actually such a good idea. When the government needs some money, they ask the people for it, and the people that the government represents helps. And from my perspective, being a foreigner here, I thought it was odd, unusual, or something. Even though I think it's a good idea. But the locals here all, not only support it, they think like it's a fantastic idea, and even people that have got not much money at all, they give some money to help out with these things when they need it. And like recently there was floods in Vietnam as well, and they did the same thing, and asked for a couple of 100,000 VND, which for me was like a couple of 100,000 is $10 or something. It's not a big deal, but it's probably a day's wage for most people here. So it's a lot of money that they raised to help out with the floods. But that makes sense. It really makes sense that hey, we pay so much in tax for the government to have all these services and all this money laying around, and it's maybe a lot less efficient than what Vietnam does.
Or something like that. So I mean, that you can argue about whether that's good or bad, but sorry, I keep getting messages and swiping them off. But they responded to it. All the money raised went to helping feed the people that were in quarantine and look after them. And I mean, I think the general average person here, like nobody in Lely's family is affected by the quarantine virus financially. Nobody's saying, oh, hey, actually it's really bad.
Maybe it's that comment there about coffee. World Health Organization doesn't say that coffee causes speech slurring. Maybe that's why they banned this video.
There's been a couple of factories closed down, but there's plenty of work still. Lely's still going to work in a factory. Last night we were out with friends sort of working in factories that are hiring people still.
Speech, and
I think
addictive substances.
It's just weird that Australia is shut down. My factory in Australia is doing about 5% of the turnover that it was doing 3-4 months ago, and because I can't accept work. Like, our government just shut down our economy, and it didn't achieve the goals that it was supposed to achieve. They should have shut down the parts of the economy that were relevant to the virus, certainly. Like shut down the borders for flights coming in from China or from high-risk countries, and whatever, and shut down. They should have probably looked at Vietnam and looked at the cases that were coming out of Vietnam and gone, oh, hang on, how come Vietnam's not getting more spread of this virus, and what are they doing? And maybe replicated that, because
3 months after this, because even at this stage, I was making this video because when you watch CNN or you watch the ABC News, the reporters would be there, no mask on, interviewing people at the shopping centres about what they thought of the coronavirus or any number of things. And so if that reporter had the virus, she's put that microphone in front of everybody and she's spreading the virus with everybody. And they weren't socially distancing yet. And so my video was directly supporting recommendations. And this is where the YouTube algorithm, obviously they got it wrong in this case. If they reject my appeal process, I'll definitely be posting this video, and I'll pull it down if they don't reject it, obviously. But you only get 800 characters. You get 800 characters to respond to this. Like, I couldn't write much about what I wanted to say. Hey, it's not satire even. I've got 2 clips in there from Donald Trump where I'm saying, hey, obviously what he was saying is wrong, and you should learn some lessons from Vietnam. And Australia did take a leaf out of Vietnam's book then, and they started really having like a $10,000 fine for not wearing, was it not wearing masks or not quarantining? It might have been for not quarantining. It was $10,000 fine. But that's because they went around, they had 900 people in self-quarantine that had flown in, and then they sent agents around to knock on their doors, and they found that 80% of those people weren't home when they went to knock on the door. So then they went, hang on, we need a law that says we can actually fine these people for this. So but in Vietnam, the government says, hey, self-quarantine, stay at home, or that, and people go, okay, they literally said that to the whole country for 3 weeks. They said stay at home for 3 weeks. The only thing you're allowed to do is go to the local market and pick up food. All right, that's it. You're not allowed out of the house for any other reason. And that wasn't in the high risk areas. That was in the whole country for 3 weeks, until they identified where the virus was and stopped the community spread. And they did that like back in, I don't know, would have been March, I guess, somewhere there. It must have been late March, because the wedding was on the 1st, so it was after that. It might have been April. Anyway.
Vietnam did it all months and months before Australia did it, and we could have just looked at that and gone, hey, that's how we stop the virus. So, and for that matter, America could have. But I think there's a total denial that a communist country can handle a pandemic better than a capitalist. Essential human services. You can't privatise water, can't privatise power.
Yeah, I cut out some of that because I went, yeah, well, I didn't want it to be a political debate, at the time, but I really do think that unfortunately in Western democracies now, Western democracies can't possibly serve the people when corporations are more powerful than people, right, in the democracy. If corporations have got more money to lobby governments and more power and sway with governments to talk to them, then governments in Western democracies don't serve people anymore, they serve corporations. So you get a corporatocracy, or that Chomsky talks about. So I'd been talking about that, and then I went, maybe I should take that out of this video because it's maybe not relevant to the point that people should look at Vietnam, learn some lessons, wear masks, socially distance, close down community activities like weddings and things like that. And so the whole video was supporting the fact that there's a virus and we should work hard to stop it spreading in the community by wearing masks and by socially distancing and following the recommendations of the WHO, as it were.
You can't privatise the healthcare system or even jails without the profit motive causing decision makers in those companies to inspire more profit by locking up more people, having sick people sick for longer, you know, like, and I don't know whether Japan's a good model for this, and I'll probably get, you know, a whole bunch of people tell me why I'm wrong about this, because I'm not a doctor and I've got a precursory understanding of these things, but you know, doctors get paid when you get sick, and they get paid to fix you, and the longer you're sick, the more they get paid. So that there's a conflict of interest there. If they fix you quickly, then they get paid less. And that's exactly the same what's happened in America and all the Western democracies. You know, a quick solution to this problem wasn't going to make more money, so it didn't happen. There's a conflict of interest. There's a lot of people making a lot of money out of this coronavirus spreading, and they're the people that are making the decisions oftentimes as to whether it spreads or not. But where you've got a communist country where the government doesn't make money out of it spreading, and they fit the bill on healthcare and whatever regardless, and they might actually get kicked out of government or something if they don't do it properly, then you know, they handled it properly. They made sure that, you know, they locked down everybody that was infected, and you know, really.
And I mean, how if you can't understand that you know, people act in self-interest, generally speaking, then you know, like, I don't understand. In the West, there's this total denial that actually corporations might do things selfishly and hurt people, but they do it all the time. It's part of corporate policy. I mean, you know, like like when Schick razor blades come out with a better razor blade, they don't release it straight away and go, oh hey, this one's really good and doesn't go blunt. They wait until their last product has run out of legs and stop selling, and then they release it and go, here's our new updated one, you know, that's better than the last one. You know, so they stage the release of more beneficial products, or that, so then they can get the most money out of the last one and their research and development on the last one before they upgrade to the new one. Now, does that help society? It doesn't really help society, but it makes more money for corporations, which is why they do it. I mean, you know, just it's the way free market process works. It's built into the economy. It's taught at business schools. You know, like I said to my sons one day when I was teaching them about business, I said, you know, like, here's a pen, boys. I got 3 sons. I said, you know, how do we make this pen, you know, more profitable, right? You know, because it's a pen, it does its job, it writes, but it writes for a long time. You know, people use one pen. Like, in my lifetime, I've only ran out of ink in a few pens, like my favourite ones that I've been using for a long time. You know, but how do we make it so that we can sell this pen to people more often? You know, and one of my sons, my youngest one, says to me, "Oh, Dad, that's easy. Put a battery in it." You know, why would we need a battery in a pen? Don't know, right? We've got to invent a reason. You know, it's got a little light in it or something, right? But if we put a battery in it, then the battery will go flat, and people will throw the pen away because they're those stupid little, you know, hearing aid batteries that nobody can buy from the local supermarket. So you know, then you just throw the thing away and you buy another pen. But that's the attitude. Now, I was teaching my sons that as a business principle, which will make profit, right, for them. But it's not good for the society. It's not good to be throwing away stuff just because, you know, you want to make more money. That's a stupid idea. And so I was also teaching them that. I was teaching them that, hey, you know, like, this will make more money, but it doesn't help society. In the long run, you know, we've got all of these pens that are piling up in landfill, and all these batteries that we're wasting for no reason. And that's built into the DNA of democracies and capitalist markets. You know, actually in America, they privatized prisons, And since they privatised prisons, they've locked up more people. Now, do you really believe that there's more criminals because they privatised prisons? You know, like like the percentage of people that have got criminal minds or behaviour in society doesn't go up because you privatise prisons. But what happens is that uh, they uh, they uh, they lobby governments for longer sentencing. After that, they lobbied governments for a three-strike rule in America, and America's got more people in prison per head of population than what any other country in the world's got. Right? Now, some people might go, "Oh, well, it's only the criminals in prison, so that's good. That means their society's safer." Well, I don't think anybody could look at America and say it's the model of safe societies. Um, or the safe or fair societies where everybody's got food and education and healthcare and that nobody could say that about America. And this was the point of my video. I'm saying, hey, maybe this whole corporatocracy thing doesn't benefit the citizens. Now, the other thing about that is, like Chomsky points out, governments oftentimes are doing the research and development, like even with this coronavirus, they're paying all the money for the vaccines. They're putting all the money in to get all of this development done, but then they hand all the profits over to corporations, and let them license the outcomes. It's a stupid system, right? If governments pay the money for the research and development, governments should be allowed to license that research and development for the benefit of the people to reduce taxation. Um, Anyway, so this is why I really think the whole Western world, like as in Europe and America and Australia for that matter, has lost their way with what's actually good for the people that they're supposed to serve, as far as law and order and healthcare and everything goes. It's you know I sit and have a coffee with my mum every morning, and every morning we just kind of shake our heads at the next stupid thing that they're saying on the media in Australia about the poor bleeding hearts that like there was a guy in Sydney had a restaurant who said he said on a on a public interview somewhere that, hey, actually he can't hire anybody in this generation now, that's the young people coming out of school, because they're so entitled. Right? That's all he said. He didn't say they were stupid, beep 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 beep, whatever. He just said they're very entitled. Right? They think that the company that they work for should be there to do everything for them and look after them and do everything, and if they want to turn up late, it's not their fault because of traffic and whatever, and and they're entitled, right? I had two young fellas work for me for 2 days in Australia, and they're sitting in the truck with me one day after 2 days of working for me, and then this young fella just up and says to me, now he was 9 and his mate was like 20, and he says to me, so when do we start earning the big money? And I said, oh, what do you mean the big money? And he said, well, like $50 an hour. And I said, mate, like, I pointed at the ute in front that had tradies ute in front, like obviously a builder. I said, see that builder there? At the moment, his hourly rate in the market's about $55 an hour, right? Just for a builder's, for building decks and patios and those types of things, about $55 an hour plus materials, right? But for the 55 an hour, he's got to pay all his super, he's got to pay all his quoting time, all his downtime, all his car, rego, insurance, all of those things for work, all his tools, all his public liability insurance. Like 55 an hour quickly gets cut down a lot, doesn't it? And these young fellas were like, well, when do we get $50 an hour working for you? And I'm going, well, that bloke in front of us spent 4 years learning his trade. He bought a ute, bought all his tools, paid all his insurances, got a business name. So mate, you're probably not going to earn $50 an hour working for me. Those guys then the next day turned up for work, broke the jobs, swore at me, they just decided to stop working. Right, the next day they were there, but they weren't working. They just went, well, we're not going to actually do any work for the money you're paying us. We're just going to turn up and try and bludge. And so one guy was swearing at me, and that when I was telling him, well, why aren't you working? And he's giving me lip, and I said, mate, well, you can leave and go home. Here's $50 for a taxi. Off you go. Go home. But he was putting his fists up to me. He was going to have a fight with me, and I said, mate, you don't need to fight with me. Here's your money. Go home. And I had to escort him off the premise because I was scared that he'd smash some of my shit on the way out. Well, sorry for swearing. Some of my stuff on the way out. I was scared that he'd have a fight with me, and so I understand when this guy said that this generation's entitled. But he got totally slammed in the Australian press. How dare he say that the young generation's entitled and whatever. They're just hard done by and they can't get a job and coronavirus and whatever. Mate, it's like as if the thing is that it's the profit motive again. The press makes money out of slamming him. They don't make money. They make money out of sensationalizing that story. They don't make money out of saying, "Hey, actually, you're right," because that'd be a short conversation. They make money out of sensationalizing it and turning it into a 3-day story that runs where the majority, the silent majority, says, "How stupid is the press?" Right? That makes money. So anyway,
handed out free masks. They actually put a price fix on masks to stop people price gouging on masks. Because the price of them was about 4 VND to start with, or 2 VND to start with, and then by mid-March or that, there was people selling them on Facebook for 10 VND. Well, the government just came in and went, yeah, if you're selling masks for more than 4 VND, you're ripping people off, and so we will take your whole stock of masks and hand them out for free. So governments just came in with all of those people, took all.
And that actually happened. Like, even here in Hozong, they just went into shops and went, "Oh, you're selling for too much," and they just confiscated the stock, walked out on the street, and handed them to anyone that was driving past, free masks. And it doesn't take many of those stories to get around in businesses before businesses stop price gouging, I can tell you.
All of their stock of masks away and handed them out for free if they were trying to profiteer from the virus. Now, if America and Australia and every other country did the same, like in Australia where people were selling toilet paper online and price gouging, then there'd be nobody doing that. Anyway, I got to go. I'm getting told to go. So bye. Bye.
So I know this wasn't a short video by any means, and the review of this video wasn't short, but where in that video did I say anything controversial other than the fact that I had one little clip of Trump saying what he said, which my whole video was saying, hey, what he said was wrong. I was actually using what he said to point out the fact that that was wrong. So I'm guessing that the little algorithm that runs around in the background just went, oh, hang on, there's a little clip there. I don't understand what Pete's talking about with everything else, but maybe he's saying something wrong, and we'll just flag it to pull it down. What we've done here is we've allowed private companies to censor information, and who believes that they're going to censor information for the betterment of people and not the betterment of profits. I don't think that YouTube censoring my channel is a good idea. I don't think that I think that freedom of speech, no matter the view, is an ideal that Western democracies have had for hundreds of years, and it's part of the strength of that society. And so they're watering this down, and not only watering it down, they're making private companies responsible for what voices get heard, and it'll only be a matter of time before that censorship increases profits for those companies, one way or another. those companies aren't going to do that work for free. They're going to figure out how to make that work pay them. So that's just my view on things. If you've stayed this long for the video, put your comments. Let me know what I said wrong or whatever in there that would warrant me getting banned, and we'll see whether YouTube actually listens to my response here. This is my response. All I got to say is one clip in my video of Trump saying that the virus is under control. It lasts for 3 seconds, and the other 15 minutes is me explicitly supporting the WHO recommendations and asking why the Americans are ignoring the recommendations to wear masks and say that there is no virus. Because a lot of people in America were saying that there's no virus, and even in Australia. Maybe get an actual person to review my video, and you would see that the whole time I am encouraging people to wear masks, socially distance, and pointing out the fact that Vietnam in May when this was made, I didn't write that right. I'll correct that. Has stopped community spread of the virus and started to open up the country back to bars, movies, and everything. At the time, May, there was no deaths in Vietnam yet, and that is the point of my video. Please point out where in this video I made any reference that was not supported by the WHO and facts, and the facts. Now, so anyway, so that's my submissions. I'll click submit and see what happens. Nothing. All right, gone. Bye for now.